The worst conversations of your life always seem to start in kitchens. Maybe it's because that's where the knives are kept. My name is Bella, and I was about to lose everything I'd spent 3 years saving for, all because my mother couldn't handle the word no. "Sweetheart, it's just money," my mother Sylvia said, stirring her afternoon tea with the silver spoon she'd guilted me into buying her last Christmas. "Your sister needs this, after everything she's been through." I gripped the edge of our granite countertop, willing the tremor in my left hand to stop. The nerve condition was getting worse, the very reason I'd been squirreling away every spare dollar for the surgery that could fix it. "Mom, I can't. You know why I can't." Juliet, my younger sister, sat perched on a bar stool, scrolling through wedding venues on her iPad. "It's not like your surgery is emergency urgent," she said without looking up. "This is my special day we're talking about." "Your third special day," I muttered. "What was that?" Mom's voice sharpened. "Nothing." I took a deep breath. "Look, I've saved $38,000. The surgery costs $45,000. I'm so close." "And Jules needs $40,000 for the venue deposit," Mom cut in. "You can restart your savings. Your sister deserves happiness after everything that monster put her through." Monster. Right. Her second husband, who I strongly suspected wasn't the villain in that story. "I can't work properly anymore," I said, holding up my trembling hand. "The nerve damage is spreading. If I wait too long—" "Oh, please," Juliet interrupted, finally looking up. "You've always been dramatic about money. Remember when you wouldn't loan me $5,000 for my business venture? The pyramid scheme makeup company that went bankrupt in 3 months? Girls," Mom warned, but her stern look was only directed at me. "Bella, your sister is trying to start fresh. This wedding will help her heal. Don't you want that for her?" The manipulation was so obvious it was almost artistic. I'd spent my whole life being the responsible one, the steady one, the one who always said yes when they needed money or help or emotional support. But this time was different. "No," I said quietly. The kitchen went silent. Even Juliet stopped scrolling. "What did you just say?" Mom's teacup clinked against its saucer. "I said no. I'm not giving up my surgery fund for Juliet's third wedding." Mom's face did that thing where it somehow became both softer and more threatening. "Darling, I don't think you understand. This isn't a request. You can't force me to give you my money." "No?" She pulled out her phone. "Remember when I helped you get that job at the nonprofit? Janet, your boss. We still have lunch sometimes. Wouldn't it be awful if she heard about your episodes?" My blood ran cold. Episodes? The mood swings, the paranoia, the instability. A finance department is no place for someone in your condition. She sighed dramatically. "I've been so worried about you lately. As your mother, maybe I have a responsibility to warn them." Juliet smirked behind her iPad. "You wouldn't," I whispered, but I knew she would. She'd done similar things before, smaller scales, different stakes. This was just the nuclear option. "Transfer the money by Friday," Mom said, standing up. "I'll tell the venue we're ready to move forward. Jules, show me that flower arrangement again." They moved to the living room, dismissing me like I was already irrelevant. I stood there, hand trembling worse than ever, watching my chance at a normal life slip away. But something else was trembling too. My other hand, which held my phone, still recording. I'd started doing that lately whenever they cornered me. 3 months of conversations, threats, confessions. Originally, I'd planned it as insurance. Now it felt more like ammunition. My phone buzzed with a text from Eric, my colleague at work. "You okay? You left that spreadsheet running on your desktop." I looked at the message, then at my sister and mother cooing over wedding photos. They had no idea I'd been tracking everything: the gambling apps, the credit card fraud, the lies about her ex-husbands. The spreadsheet Eric mentioned wasn't for work, it was evidence. I texted back, "No, but I will be." They wanted to play hardball? Fine. I'd been the good daughter, the reliable sister, the endless ATM for their dreams. But they'd forgotten something important. I worked in finance. I knew how to follow money, and money always tells the truth. Friday was coming, but not the Friday they expected. The email from HR arrived at 10:47 a.m., right when I was deep in a quarterly report. Subject line, informal inquiry, workplace conduct. My mother worked fast. I had to give her that. Bella? Eric's head popped over my cubicle wall. You look like you've seen a ghost. I turned my monitor slightly so he could read the email. His eyes narrowed as he scanned the carefully worded corporate speak about concerns raised regarding emotional stability and commitment to maintaining a safe workplace environment. This is bullshit, he muttered. Who would... My mother knows Janet from their country club. I closed the email, hands shaking worse than usual. She warned me she'd do this. The same mother who was pressuring you about money yesterday? I nodded, trying to focus on my breathing. The tremors were always worse under stress. Pack up your stuff, Eric said suddenly. We're taking an early lunch. 20 minutes later, we sat in his car in the far corner of the parking lot, a safe distance from office windows and curious eyes. I'd brought my laptop in a thick folder I kept in my bottom drawer. Start from the beginning, Eric said, handing me a coffee from the drive-thru. My sister's getting married, again. She wants $40,000 for the venue deposit. My mother's demanding I empty my surgery fund to pay for it. And when you said no, she's trying to get me fired. I laughed, but it came out hollow. Classic Mom. She did the same thing when I refused to co-sign Juliet's car loan last year. Called my landlord and said I was running an illegal business from my apartment. Eric's grip tightened on his coffee cup. That's straight-up harassment. That's family. I opened my laptop. But this time, I was ready for it. I pulled up what I called my sister spreadsheet, 6 months of meticulously documented financial records, screenshots, and recordings. See these transactions? I pointed to a series of charges. All gambling apps, thousands per month. And these? I scrolled down. Credit card applications under our father's name. He doesn't know about them. Eric whistled low. How did you get all this? Juliet's terrible with passwords. She uses the same one everywhere. Her first husband's birthday. Ironic, since she cheated on him. I pulled out my phone and played a recording from 3 months ago. Juliet's voice, slurred with wine, filled the car. God, Mark was such a bore. But his beach house? Worth every fake smile. Until I met Ryan, obviously. Those abs? Couldn't resist. Mark was husband number 2? Eric asked. Yeah, the one she told everyone was abusive. Turns out she was the one throwing things. I stopped the recording. There's more, so much more. Why haven't you exposed her? Because my mother would destroy me. You saw how quickly she moved with HR. Imagine what she'd do if I really fought back. Eric was quiet for a moment, then, what if you had backup? I looked at him. What do you mean? I mean, I've worked in finance for 8 years. I know how to document fraud. And Mia in legal, she owes me a favor. We could build this into something bulletproof. My hands were trembling again, but not from the nerve condition. You'd help me? Bella, I've watched you limp through work for months because you can't afford surgery. Meanwhile, your sister's planning her 3rd wedding? That's not right. He touched my shaking hand briefly. Let's fight back. Back at the office, I had 3 voicemails from my mother. I deleted them without listening. Instead, I forwarded Eric a folder of screenshots, Juliet's hidden Venmo transactions, her secret credit card statements, the threatening texts from her abusive ex that showed a very different story. At 5 p.m., my phone buzzed with a text from Juliet. Mom says you're being difficult about the money. Don't be selfish. I deserve this. I stared at the message, thinking about all the times I'd given in, all the times I'd believed that being a good sister meant setting myself on fire to keep her warm. You okay? Eric asked, stopping by my desk with his coat. I showed him the text. Then I pulled up one final recording on my phone. Juliet at her bachelorette party for wedding number 2, bragging about how she'd used the wedding gift money to buy a Chanel purse instead of paying the caterer. No, I said, but I'm done being the only one who suffers for it. I looked up at him. Still want to help me build a case? He grinned. I thought you'd never ask. Want to grab dinner and strategize? For the first time in days, my hands were steady. Yes, it's time to show my family what happens when you push the quiet one too far. I grabbed my coat, leaving Juliet's text unanswered. Let them think they'd won. The best revenge needs patience. And I'd been patient for years. Holy shit, Mia from legal whispered, spreading the documents across her dining room table. Your sister's been busy. It was Saturday morning, and Eric had convinced Mia to meet us off the record at her house. Spread before us was what Eric called the Golden Child's greatest hits. Every scrap of evidence I'd collected over the past 6 months. Look at this pattern, Eric pointed to a highlighted section. Every time she gets engaged, there's a spike in gambling activity, almost like she's trying to win enough to cover the wedding costs. And failing spectacularly, I added, pulling up another spreadsheet. She's over $90,000 in debt. Chandler, her new fiancé, has no idea. The doorbell rang, making me jump. Mia checked her security camera and smiled. It's just Georgia. My Aunt Georgia walked in carrying a casserole dish. She stopped short when she saw all the papers. Oh, I didn't realize you had company. Stay, I said quickly. You should see this. Georgia set down her dish and peered at the nearest document. Her face went pale. Is that Travis's signature? No, I said. That's Juliet forging Dad's signature on a loan application. Georgia sank into a chair. I knew it. I knew something was wrong when she showed up with that new car last year. She looked at me. Your mother's been telling people at church that you're having some kind of breakdown. Says you're jealous of Juliet's happiness. Of course she is. I pulled out my phone and played the recording of Juliet bragging about her Chanel purse scam. George's hand flew to her mouth. There's more, Eric said gently. He showed her the gambling app records. She needs help, Georgia whispered. Real help, not another wedding. Try telling that to Mom, I said. She's too busy threatening my job to notice her precious baby is drowning in debt and fraud. Mia, who'd been taking notes, looked up. Speaking of your job, I've drafted a cease and desist letter regarding your mother's harassment. We can have it delivered Monday. Won't that just make things worse? Georgia asked. Things are already worse, I said. Mom's trying to force me to give up my surgery fund. She's calling me unstable at work. What's left to lose? Your family, Georgia said softly. The room went quiet. Even Eric stopped shuffling papers. What family? I finally asked. The mother who's blackmailing me? The sister who steals and lies? The father who sees everything and says nothing? My hands were shaking again, but I didn't try to hide it. They stopped being family the moment they decided my health was worth less than Juliet's third wedding. Georgia reached across the table and took my trembling hand. I remember when you were diagnosed. You were so scared, but you never complained. You just started saving, working extra hours. Meanwhile, Juliet was throwing tantrums over table settings. The perfect daughter versus the problem child, Mia mused, except they got the roles backward. There's something else, Eric said, pulling out his laptop. Show them the video, Bella. I hesitated, then nodded. He played the clip, security footage from a local casino showing Juliet slapping her second husband, Mark, not the other way around as she'd claimed. Jesus, Georgia breathed. Does Chandler know about any of this? No one does, yet. I looked at Mia. What are my options? Mia tapped her pen against her legal pad. Legally, we have enough evidence of financial fraud to go to the police. But if you want to handle this differently, everything here is documented fact. You could expose it all without legal repercussions. You mean like at the wedding? Eric asked. I was thinking more like the engagement party next weekend, I said. Before they waste more people's money. Georgia squeezed my hand. Whatever you decide, I'm with you. This has gone on long enough. My phone buzzed, a text from my mother. Janet wants to meet Monday about your situation. Last chance to do the right thing. I showed the message to the others. Mia immediately started typing on her laptop. Eric's jaw clenched, but it was Georgia who spoke. You know what the worst part is? She said. Sylvia actually believes she's protecting Juliet. She can't see she's enabling her destruction. Well, I said, looking at the mountain of evidence before us, she's about to see everything. Eric started gathering the documents into organized piles. So, engagement party showdown it is? I nodded, feeling strangely calm. Time to show everyone who the unstable one really is. And Bella, Georgia said as we packed up, whatever happens, you're not alone anymore. Looking around at my unlikely support team, my aunt, my colleague, and a lawyer who'd given up her Saturday to help, I finally believed that might be true. The golden child's crown was about to get very, very heavy. My father's house always smelled like coffee and regret. I found him in his usual spot, the garage, tinkering with his old Mustang, hiding from the world. Hey, Dad! He slid out from under the car, wiping his hands on a rag. Bella, your mother said you weren't speaking to anyone? Yeah, well, Mom says a lot of things. I pulled up a workbench stool. We need to talk about Juliet. His shoulders tensed. Your sister's happy finally. Let's not stir things up. Did you know she forged your signature for a loan? The rag stopped moving. What? I showed him the documentation. His face aged 10 years as he read. There's more, I said quietly. Remember when she said Mark was abusive? Dad sat heavily on his toolbox. He wasn't? I played the casino video. Dad watched his precious youngest daughter scream obscenities and throw drinks, watched her slap Mark repeatedly while he tried to calm her down. Stop, he whispered. Please. I stopped the video. Why didn't you ever stand up to them, Dad? All these years you've watched Mom and Juliet tear me down. You've watched them take, and you never said a word. He studied his grease-stained hands. Your mother, she's complicated. When she decides something, she destroys anyone who disagrees. I held up my trembling hand, like she's trying to destroy my career because I won't give up my surgery fund. Surgery fund? He looked up sharply. What surgery? Of course they hadn't told him. The nerve condition's getting worse, Dad. I need corrective surgery. I've been saving for 3 years. And they want that money for the wedding? His voice cracked. Why didn't you tell me? Would it have mattered? The silence that followed was answer enough. I stood up. The engagement party's next weekend. I'm done being their victim, Dad. Things are going to change. Bella, wait. He caught my arm. What are you planning? The truth. All of it. I pulled away. You might want to be somewhere else when it happens. I left him standing in his garage, surrounded by the pieces of a car he'd never finish fixing, just like he'd never fix our family. My next stop was across town, at the trendy coffee shop where Juliet's best friend Zoe worked as a manager. I'd timed it perfectly. Her shift was ending. Bella? Zoe's surprise seemed genuine. I didn't expect... with everything... Just wanted to talk about the bridal shower, I said smoothly. Buy you a drink? 2 glasses of wine later, at the bar next door, Zoe was getting chatty. I love Jules, you know I do, but... She leaned in close. Does Chandler know about the restraining orders? I kept my face neutral. Which ones? From the exes, both of them. Zoe took another sip. The one from Mark, okay, he was awful. But poor Tommy, she practically stalked him after he caught her with his credit cards. My phone was recording in my pocket. Tommy from the first marriage? God, that was a mess. Zoe shook her head. She maxed out all his cards, then told everyone he was cheating, but I saw the statements. It was all her. Shopping sprees, casino visits, cash advances. Does your conscience ever bother you? I asked quietly, watching her do this again. Zoe's wine glass stopped halfway to her mouth. What do you mean? Chandler seems nice. He deserves to know what he's marrying. Zoe set down her glass. I've tried hinting, but Jules always says he's different. This time it's real love. Like she said about Tommy and Mark? Zoe's eyes filled with tears. I should have said something sooner, shouldn't I? It's not too late. I slid her my card with Eric's number written on the back. If you want to make things right, call this number before the engagement party. My phone buzzed. An anonymous text. Back off or everything you love burns. I showed it to Zoe. Still think I'm the unstable one? She stared at the message, then grabbed her phone and took a picture. Call that number tomorrow? I nodded and stood to leave. At the door, she called after me. Bella, I'm sorry for not seeing it sooner. Me too, I said, but we're seeing it now. Outside, another text waited, this one from Eric. Everything's ready. Are you sure about this? I thought about my father in his garage, about Zoe's guilty tears, about my mother's threats and Juliet's lies, about my hands that wouldn't stop shaking. Yes, I texted back. It's time everyone saw the truth. The engagement party was 5 days away. My sister's castle of lies was about to crumble, and I'd make sure everyone watched it fall. The pre-wedding dinner was exactly as pretentious as I expected. Mom had rented out the private room at La Maison, where the silverware cost more than my monthly rent. Darling, Mom air-kissed my cheeks, as if she hadn't tried to destroy my career that week. I'm so glad you decided to be reasonable. The wire in my necklace picked up every word. Eric, monitoring the feed remotely, texted, Got it. Keep her talking. I smiled sweetly. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Juliet held court at the center table, Chandler beside her looking like a man who'd won the lottery without reading the fine print. His mother, Patricia, sat nearby, beaming at her future daughter-in-law, if she only knew. Bella, Juliet waved me over. Come sit by me. We've barely talked all week. Because I'd been busy documenting your fraud, dear sister. I sat down, adjusting my necklace. Beautiful party. Isn't it? Juliet grabbed Chandler's arm. Mom says now that you're being cooperative about the venue deposit, we can have the fairy tale wedding I deserve. Patricia perked up. Oh, are you helping with the wedding? Before I could answer, Mom swooped in. Bella's been going through some difficulties lately, but she's finally agreed to support her sister properly. Actually, I said clearly for the recording, I haven't agreed to anything. The temperature at the table dropped 10 degrees. Bella, Mom's voice carried a warning, don't make a scene. A scene? I took a sip of water. Like calling my boss with lies about my mental health or threatening me with anonymous texts? Chandler frowned. What's she talking about, Jules? Oh, ignore her, Juliet laughed nervously. She's been so unstable lately. Jealousy, you know. Jealous of what? I asked. Your gambling debts? Your restraining orders? Or the way you used your last wedding gifts to buy designer bags instead of paying vendors? Dead silence fell over the table. Patricia's fork clattered against her plate. That's enough. Mom stood up. Bella is clearly having another episode. She's been imagining things, making wild accusations. Really? I pulled out my phone. Should we ask Mark about what I'm imagining? Or Tommy? I hear they're both very interested in speaking at the wedding. Juliet's face went white. Chandler looked between us, confusion turning to suspicion. Jules? What's she talking about? Nothing. Juliet grabbed his hand. Baby, she's lying. She's sick. She needs help. The only help I need is surgery, I said, letting my trembling hand rest on the table. The surgery you're trying to steal money from, Patricia gasped. Steal? Mother, Juliet hissed. Do something. Mom placed her hand on my shoulder, squeezing hard. Sweetheart, you're making a fool of yourself. Let's get you home. Take your hand off me, I said quietly. or I'll play the recording of you threatening my career right now." She jerked back like I'd burned her. "Bella?" My father's voice came from behind me. I hadn't even noticed him arrive. "Maybe this isn't the place." "It's exactly the place." I stood up. "I'm done being your family's ATM and emotional punching bag. The engagement party's still on for Saturday. I suggest everyone attend. There's going to be quite a show." "If you do this," Mom said, her voice shaking, "you're no longer part of this family." I laughed. "Wow, Mom, that almost sounds like a reward." Chandler stood abruptly. "Jules, we need to talk. Now." "But baby—" "Now." They left, Patricia following with concern etched on her face. Other guests pretended to be fascinated by their salads. "You've ruined everything," Juliet spat as she passed me. "No," I said. "I'm just getting started." Eric was waiting in his car outside. I slid into the passenger seat, hands shaking so bad I could barely buckle the seatbelt. "Got it all," he said, holding up the receiver connected to my wire. "You okay?" "No." I let out a shaky breath. "But I will be. Did Zoe call?" "This morning. She's willing to make a statement at the party. George is bringing the financial records, and Mia's got the legal documentation ready." My phone lit up with texts, threats from Mom, pleading from Juliet, a single message from Dad. "I should have protected you better. Too little, too late." "They'll try to stop the party from happening," I said. Eric grinned. "Already handled. Mia booked the venue in her name. They can't cancel it without legal repercussions." I leaned back, closing my eyes. "Saturday's going to be a bloodbath." "Saturday," Eric said, starting the car, "is going to be justice." He was right. The dress rehearsal was over. Time for the main event. And this time, I had front row seats to watch my sister's perfect world implode. The engagement party venue sparkled with fairy lights and champagne glasses. My mother had outdone herself, probably hoping the expensive atmosphere would keep me from making a scene. Eric stood by the AV equipment, pretending to be the hired tech. Mia sat near the front, legal documents tucked in her designer clutch. Georgia worked the room, making sure key players were in position. "Last chance to back out," Eric murmured as I passed. I touched my trembling hand. Not a chance. Juliet looked radiant in designer white, clinging to Chandler's arm. He'd shown up despite our dinner drama, but the wariness in his eyes suggested he'd done some digging. "Time for the presentation," Mom announced, clinking her glass. "Bella has prepared a special tribute to the happy couple." The smirk in her voice was clear. She thought she'd won, that I'd fallen in line. After all, I'd asked to do this presentation. I must have seen reason. The lights dimmed. I took the microphone. "Love is beautiful," I began, as the first slides appeared. "And no one knows that better than my sister. Here's to third time's the charm." The crowd chuckled. Juliet's smile froze. "Let's take a walk down memory lane." The slideshow began. Beautiful wedding photos from Juliet's first marriage. Tommy and Jules 2018. Budget $50,000, paid for by our parents. Next slide, bank statements showing maxed credit cards, all in Tommy's name. 6 months later, court documents appeared. Restraining order filed by Tommy after Juliet stalked him post-divorce. Gasps from the audience. Chandler sat up straight. "But love conquers all." Wedding number 2, 2021. Mark and Jules, budget $75,000, funded by family donations and wedding gifts. Security camera footage played, Juliet throwing glasses at Mark in the casino. She claimed he was abusive. I paused. "The casino footage suggests otherwise." "Turn it off," Juliet screamed, standing up. "Why? This is your story, sister dear. Don't you want Chandler to know what he's investing in?" More slides. Gambling app transactions, forged loan documents, credit card statements. Current debt, $90,000. But hey, at least you got that Chanel purse. Want to tell everyone what you really did with their wedding gift money? The recording played through the speakers. Juliet's drunken confession about the purse, about using Mark for his beach house, about lying to everyone. "Stop this immediately!" Mom rushed toward Eric at the controls. He stood his ground, Mia beside him with a restraining order ready. "And now," I continued, "the happy couple wants $40,000 for a venue deposit. Mom's solution? Make me give up my surgery fund. Because in this family, Juliet's third wedding matters more than fixing my nerve damage." I held up my shaking hand. "This is getting worse every day, but apparently that's less important than another fairy tale wedding for the sister who treats marriage like a get-rich-quick scheme." "You bitter, jealous bitch!" Juliet lunged forward, but Chandler caught her arm. "Is it true?" he asked quietly. "The debt? The restraining orders?" "She's lying!" "Actually," Zoe stood up from her seat, "she's not. I have proof of everything she's saying." "As do I," Georgia added, pulling out her own folder. "And I have the legal documentation right here," Mia chimed in. Chandler released Juliet's arm like it burned him. "It's over. Baby, no, over." He turned to his mother. "We're leaving." They walked out, Patricia shooting a disgusted look at Juliet as they passed. "You've ruined everything!" Mom screamed, then suddenly swayed. I feel—" She crumpled. Dad rushed to catch her, ever the dutiful husband, even now. "Always with the fainting spell when things don't go your way," Georgia muttered, but she went to help anyway. Juliet stood alone in the center of the room, her perfect world shattered around her. Guests whispered and pointed. Her mascara ran in black streaks. "I hate you," she whispered as I passed her. "Funny," I replied. "I stopped caring what you think around the time Mom threatened my career to fund your latest scam." The room had erupted into chaos, people demanding refunds from previous wedding gifts, others calling to cancel checks for this one. Mia was handing out copies of the documentation to anyone who asked. Eric appeared at my side. "Ready to go?" I looked at my family one last time. Mom recovering on a chair, Dad hovering helplessly, Juliet crying mascara rivers into her champagne. "Yes," I said. "I'm done here." Georgia caught up with us at the door. "That was quite a show." "Was it worth it?" Eric asked. I flexed my trembling hand, thinking of the surgery I could now have without guilt or manipulation, thinking of the years of lies and abuse finally exposed. "Truth usually is," I said, and walked out into the night, leaving the wreckage of my sister's engagement party behind. Sometimes the best revenge isn't just exposing lies, it's finally being free of them. The aftermath hit social media before I even got home. Juliet's Instagram story was a masterclass in playing victim. My own sister's jealousy has destroyed my happiness, followed by crying selfies and vague quotes about betrayal. My phone wouldn't stop buzzing with messages. "You've killed your mother, Mom." "How could you do this to your sister, Dad?" The truth needed to come out. Georgia. "Girl, you're my hero, Mia." I turned it off and sat in my darkened apartment, waiting for the shaking in my hands to subside. It wasn't just the nerve condition anymore. Adrenaline had my whole body trembling. A knock at the door made me jump. "It's Eric, and I brought reinforcements." I opened the door to find Eric, Georgia, and Mia holding pizza boxes and wine bottles. "We figured you shouldn't be alone tonight," Georgia said, pushing past me into the kitchen. "Your mother's already calling everyone at church." "Let me guess. I'm possessed by demons?" "Close. She's saying you had a psychotic break." Mia pulled out her phone. "But the video's already circulating. People are putting it together." "Chandler's mother called me," Georgia added, pouring wine. "She's grateful. Apparently, Juliet had already started pushing for access to their family trust fund. Another knock. This time it was Zoe, looking nervous. "I hope it's okay that I came. I needed to tell you something." I let her in. She clutched her purse like a shield. "Juliet just called me. She wanted me to sign a statement saying the evidence was fake, that you manipulated me into lying." Zoe's voice shook. "I told her no. I'm done covering for her. How'd she take that? She threatened to tell everyone about my drinking problem from college. I told her to go ahead. Zoe managed a small smile. Your courage inspired me. My phone started ringing again, the landline this time. I put it on speaker. Bella? It was my father. Your mother's in the hospital. Of course she is, I muttered. She's demanding you come apologize. She says she'll forgive you if you admit you lied. Dad, stop. I cut him off. My bank account shows $0, just like Mom's compassion for me. I'm done playing her games. But she's your mother? No, she's Juliet's mother. I was just the ATM who happened to share DNA. Silence on the line. Then, so quiet, I almost missed it. I'm sorry I never stood up for you. Me too, Dad. Me too. I hung up. Eric touched my shoulder. You okay? No. I showed him my trembling hands. But I will be, once I get the surgery. About that, Mia pulled out her laptop. Remember how I said the video was circulating? Check your GoFundMe. I stared at the screen. The campaign Eric had set up last night, Help Bella Get Her Surgery, had already raised over $30,000. People really hate wedding scammers, Eric grinned, and they really love karma. Most of these donations are from guests at Juliet's previous weddings, Georgia pointed out. Looks like you're not the only one she burned. My phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. Chandler, thank you for saving me from making a terrible mistake. I've donated to your surgery fund. Get well soon. Tears spilled down my cheeks, the first I'd allowed myself since this all began. Don't you dare feel guilty, Mia said firmly. You didn't destroy your family. You just exposed what was already broken. Besides, Zoe added, real family doesn't demand you sacrifice your health for their lies. Another text came through from my insurance company. I read it twice, not believing my eyes. What is it? Eric asked. They've approved my surgery. 3 months earlier than expected. There was a cancellation. When? Georgia asked. Next week. I looked up at my unlikely support system, the colleague who became my defender, the aunt who chose truth over loyalty, the lawyer who fought for justice, and the friend who finally stood up to my sister. Will you be there? Try keeping us away, Eric said, raising his wine glass. To karma. To truth, Mia added. To freedom, Georgia smiled. To real family, Zoe finished. My hands were still shaking, but somehow it didn't seem as scary anymore. Not with these people around me. The doorbell rang again. This time it was a delivery, a small package from the hospital. Inside was my surgery preparation packet and a note from my doctor. Your timing is perfect. Let's fix those hands. I looked at my found family, all raising their glasses in my tiny apartment, and felt something I hadn't experienced in years. Peace. Sometimes you have to break everything to fix what matters most, starting with yourself. The hospital room was quiet except for the steady beep of monitors and Eric's typing on his laptop. My hands lay still on the white sheets. No tremors, no shaking. Just peace. Your post is going viral, Eric said. Over 50,000 upvotes on Reddit already. Read me the comments? Finally, a bridezilla gets what she deserves. OP is my hero. Oh, here's a good one. I wish I'd had your courage when my sister did the same thing. A knock at the door interrupted us. Georgia peeked in, holding a basket of muffins. Behind her stood my father. Dad? Eric stood. I'll give you guys a minute. Dad took his vacant chair, looking everywhere but at my hands. Your mother wanted to come. Let me guess. I just need to admit I lied, and all will be forgiven? Actually, he pulled out his phone, she wanted to show you this. It was a local news website. The headline read, Local Woman Arrested for Wedding Gift Fraud Scheme. Juliet tried to pull the same scam again, Dad said quietly. She sent mass emails to everyone who'd RSVP'd to the wedding, claiming she needed emergency deposits to save the venue bookings. Someone reported her. And Mom finally saw the truth, or at least she can't deny it anymore. He reached for my hand, the steady one now, post-surgery. I filed for divorce this morning. The monitors caught my spike in heart rate. You what? 30 years of enabling their behavior, of watching them hurt you. His voice cracked. I don't want that to be my whole life's story. Another knock, Mia this time, with papers in hand. Sorry to interrupt, but Bella needs to see this. Chandler's family is pressing charges too. They found evidence she'd already started transferring money from their accounts. How much? I asked. Enough for federal charges. Dad's phone buzzed. He checked it and let out a hollow laugh. Your mother's asking me to help pay for Juliet's lawyer. And? I told her to use the wedding venue deposit. He stood up. I should go. But Bella, I'm proud of you, not just for exposing the truth, but for fighting for yourself when I wouldn't. After he left, Mia sat down. You okay? Getting there. I flexed my fingers, marveling at their steadiness. Did you see the Reddit post? About that? She grinned. 3 publishers have contacted me. They want you to write a book. About? About surviving toxic family dynamics, about standing up to abuse, about choosing yourself. Eric came back in with coffee. Tell her the title I suggested. Surviving Golden Shadows, When Family is the Villain, Mia said. What do you think? Before I could answer, Georgia rushed back in. You need to see this. She held up her phone. On it was a video of my mother, makeup perfect despite her hospital stay, giving an interview to a local news station. My daughters, she dabbed at dry eyes, both need help. One with criminal tendencies, one with delusions. As a mother, my heart is broken. Turn it off, I said. Wait for it. The reporter turned to the camera. But documents show Mrs. Wright was aware of the fraud, even participating in threatening behavior to cover it up. Witnesses have come forward. They're investigating Mom too, Georgia said. The threats to your job, the harassment, it's all coming out. I looked at my steady hands, at my friends crowded into the hospital room, at the father who finally chose right over easy. You know what the strangest part is? I said. I don't feel guilty anymore. Good. Eric squeezed my shoulder. You shouldn't. My phone lit up with a message from Zoe. Juliet's mugshot is online, still wearing that Chanel she bought with stolen wedding gifts. So, Mia sat on the edge of my bed. About that book deal? I'll do it, I said. People need to know they're not alone. That standing up to family abuse isn't betrayal. It's survival. Speaking of survival, Eric pulled out a small wrapped package. Early getting out of hospital gift from all of us. Inside was a journal, bound in soft leather. The first page had an inscription. Sometimes the happiest ending isn't riding off into the sunset, it's walking away from the shadows. Write your truth. We've got your back. Love, your chosen family. I traced the words with my steady fingers, feeling the strength in them. Not just the physical strength from the surgery, but the deeper strength that comes from finally breaking free. Thank you, I said, looking at each of them, for everything. That's what real family does, Georgia smiled. My hands didn't shake as I opened the journal to its first blank page. They didn't shake as I wrote the opening line of my story. They wouldn't shake again,